Today, we're in Kazakhstan, a country that's defying all odds to position itself as a hub for crypto and blockchain innovation. Since the ban on mining in China, Kazakhstan slowly became the place to be for both miners and innovators. Yet, we rarely think of Kazakhstan among global crypto hubs like New York, Singapore, and Dubai. So, why here and why now? Here at the Almaty Innovation Summit, we're investigating the milestones of crypto adoption since that mining boom. And we're here to understand what happened in the blockchain ecosystem to allow it to develop to the level that it did. Let's go inside.
Like how excited people are to be in the crypto space.
Talk to me about today. We're at this Innovation Summit. You are moderating a panel, but you're also participating in one. What are the main discussion points? What are people talking about here?
We talked today about the regulatory framework. We talked about the trends. We talked about some barriers. We talked about some real cases.
It's rare to have a crypto in Kazakhstan, I would say. And I was like, well, it's right in my backyard, right? It'll be a waste to not come. And I really wanted to just check it out, see what it's all about. It's a beautiful venue, it's a great place. So yeah, hope to see the local community show up.
Is there a Solana network here in Kazakhstan?
Yeah, so I think we have contributors that are part of the Termina team that are really growing and helping scale out the Solana community out in Kazakhstan.
Now this might come as a surprise, but Kazakhstan is Central Asia's largest economy by far in both absolute and per capita terms. The country represented an impressive 60% of the regional GDP in 2020, and despite often being overlooked, it is secretly becoming a key player in the world of blockchain. So to really understand the Kazakh crypto journey, we spoke to the founders, the builders, and even the regulators about why crypto companies want to relocate here and what the role of the AIFC has been in facilitating that. But before we get there, when did it all start?
I think it was really the crypto ban in China that put Kazakhstan on the map as a quick and a cheap way to move their resources over and to move all their mining machines over. So I think before that, Kazakhstan was never really on the map.
Are there any other key milestones along the way that you can point to?
I would say the first one would be the mining ban. After that would be, the new president being appointed, because you have political stability. And then you can have an ecosystem like fintech, Web3, funds. And then you have AIFC where the businesses can gather.
So AIFC basically was launched in 2018 and starting from 2016. So we implemented the common law rules and we provided new instruments to the market. AIFC is created for running a business, like starting from the startups, very like newbie companies, and ending up by the very big corporation. So we positioned AIFC as a financial center for the region, especially for the Central Asia, Caucasus countries, for CIS, Mongolia. Now it's really became as an international financial center.
What do you think the main catalysts are when companies decide to move their headquarters to Kazakhstan? Is it that they want to access a new market of users, or is it that the regulatory environment is attractive?
I think it's a regulatory environment because it's not so hard to obtain the license here. We have a sandbox in AIFC where you can try to grow your business.
We've been working a lot and we've been developing digital asset activities rules. This is a legal act fully dedicated to regulate digital assets. And the second is open-minded regulator. We are ready to regulate your innovation within the FinTech Lab, within the regulatory sandbox. You can provide us with description of your innovation, and we will do everything in order to provide you with due tailored requirements. Third reason is infrastructure and the location. We are located in the heart of Central Asia. At the same time, our banks, our infrastructure in terms of financial services are due established to provide professional players in crypto with certain level of comfort. When you come to Kazakhstan, you've got everything in place.
Are you seeing a lot of development in crypto and blockchain here in Kazakhstan?
Overall, I would say that Kazakhstan is trying to advance in development and IT, but it's still early stages here. So there's like lots of good moves, like Aidana from my panel mentioned, like they had a program that was certifying more than 4,000 developers in Kazakhstan, but there's also like time lag before they would start their companies. And also there's always international competition, even great people would go and maybe register it somewhere else.
And I think in Central Asia, I view Kazakhstan as being like in a leading position as a result of some of the agencies that they've set up in order to support, I would say, foreign entrepreneurs, as well as explore Web3. So, they're exploring the digital tenge, they're exploring these types of Web3 technology, and also they're really open-minded to working with exchanges, centralized exchanges, in order to provide like regulatory clarity.
Kazakhstan is a leader right now, but definitely there is competition. There is actually a lot of competition, and it's actually pretty obvious, like when certain events get cancelled or delayed, and then another country makes up their own events to, divert the attention. But the thing is that I do not think any of them have the kind of capacity to replace Kazakhstan as that central hub.
Is that the main point of attraction? Is that what makes Kazakhstan an attractive environment, that approach that you have to regulation, or is there something else?
I believe the core is regulation itself.
If I had to put Kazakhstan sort of on that spectrum of regulatory clarity, I would put us closer to Singapore than I would put us to the US, largely because I think the regulators are not actively trying to combat, deny, and jail people. It's everything from incorporation to managing jurisdictions, licensing, etc. It's much simpler, right? Like you can off-ramp crypto here as a resident relatively easily compared to a lot of other jurisdictions, and legally and tax implications are relatively favorable.
Are there any similarities or major differences between the way the MAS operates and the way the AIFC operates?
Yes, they're actually quite different. Like the MAS are not the kind of regulators that you can just text on WhatsApp and say, "Hi, I'm in town, let's have a coffee to catch up." Usually the only time I get to speak to them is through emails. It's more of asking them what they want, and I change is one way. But over here with AIFC, it's more of a two-way conversation. There is more space for negotiation because we know, and the regulators also know, that it is growing, they are growing, and they actually do a value and they do need feedback from us.
While it was the Bitcoin mining boom in Kazakhstan that kickstarted the growth, as with other mining booms, there was an eventual bust. It was arguably other factors like the Astana International Financial Centre and adopting a sandbox approach to regulation that made the country an attractive place to do business. The result is that a range of exchanges and other digital asset service providers, or DASPs as they're called here, obtaining licenses. Although so far we've encountered very few crypto-native and even fewer community-led initiatives. So once we learned about why doing business here is an attractive prospect, at least for established companies, we simply had to discover who actually uses crypto here and why. What we learned about adoption drivers was not exactly what we expected. So where is the demand for crypto coming from?
There is a lot of intention coming from the business, from the big and small, and from the population. Mostly for the crypto as an additional instruments, it's coming from the financial institutions first. So we want to fractionalize that commercial estates and to provide, to give an opportunity to the investors, to the population to invest into these type of instruments.
I think that general perception of crypto here for retail, right? I think it's still quite skeptical. Just like I said, fintech sort of occupy a lot of those niches and managed to capture the value on providing those services earlier. So I think the breakthrough for crypto here might take a different direction.
Obviously, institutional companies invest more, but at the same time, we would like to see a lot of retail clients. Crypto giving us an implication of how we're doing good in terms of innovations. I would like to see that retail clients will prevail.
In the long run, we want to be helping retail clients more than institutional solutions.
Yeah, because that professional guys to crypto, they have access to knowledge, they are more financial, they have access to financial literacy, to best advisors. At the same time, retail client more When you do have a lot of retail clients, you see the real value of the market.
There's some retail using it, right? It's not like people don't know about it. There are some, but it's just the volume, right? And the amount of people that are actively engaged is different, and it's, yet to grow. I'm sure some people had bad experiences, right? There is all kinds of things that are that crypto has its connotations to it. So people think, oh, you're probably a scammer or a speculator, or you're just like a day trader, or some of those things. And I'm none of those things.
Retail's involvement in crypto is evidently lagging behind enterprise adoption here, but Kazakhstan is well on its way to becoming a serious player in the global crypto scene. The question that remains is, how can they achieve that given the growing regional competition? Would you say overall that the country's moving in the right direction in terms of attracting capital and talent?
Yeah, as I said, there is lots of educational programs, and as far as I know, current president and the government, they are pro. There is really advanced jurisdictional, this finance city or something.
AIFC, I think, right?
Yeah. So, for example, in Ukraine, we still don't have legislation or permissions to the exchanges, and Kazakhstan could do it. And now there's registered exchanges. It's all going well.
Would you recommend to the government or to the regulators that they should think about grants and supporting local startup ecosystems? Or do you think maybe, no, we would have more success in attracting established companies?
I think our government should offer some grants for startups.
For the local startups?
For the local startups. It can help them to grow the new business because it's quite different level right now.
What do we need to get there?
For example, maybe government programs in order to motivate our local talents.
And also, if you're an international one, AIFC regime provides you with best regime on visas.
So as an individual, as an international individual, am I also subjected to this, or
as an entrepreneur?
As an entrepreneur.
If you would like to, you can redomicile your company from jurisdictions that allow you to redom. And you can join the AIFC participant hub.
Clearly, this landlocked nation, Central Asia's largest economy, is evolving both from an infrastructure and regulatory perspective. There's an obvious desire here to leave behind the notion that this was merely a crypto mining hub. Both the regulators and the builders talk of a collaborative regulatory process through the AIFC, and they talk about becoming more attractive not just to businesses, but also to entrepreneurs in the future. So let's go back inside and find out what's next for Kazakhstan.
So it's making, simple, very clear, understandable regulation, and the entry level should be lessened down. Now we see the trend that Central Asian countries are trying to sell the unified market. Each country is not so attractive for the global investors, but when you're selling the Central Asian market, which is almost 80 million population, so that's becoming more interesting for the global market. So that's why we are all working together.
5 years from now, are there going to be more individuals using crypto and exploring use cases? Or is it still going to be largely enterprise-driven, the adoption of the underlying technology, for example? Is it still going to be catering towards enterprises?
Yeah, it's hard with the binary, right? Because I think it will likely be a B2B2C scenario where enterprises would use blockchain for an underlying technology, right, as a database and as sort of distributed ledger. And based on that, if that provides enough utility, it's able to provide something to its customers. So I foresee that it will be a B2B2C scenario where enterprises pick it up first, right? There is still that gap that's yet to be bridged. And for that reason, I think, at least in the near perspective, 5 years, probably be a B2B2C scenario.
Is there still something missing?
If I was to think about it broadly, I think crypto has to offer more utility, right? I think that's something that perhaps everybody talks about, but it's not clear to the regulators because there are use cases, right? But they do need to be proven and solidified and clearly communicated to the regulator to be on board because they have to balance, right, the interests, the national interests, the consumer protections, and basically licensing. So I think to an extent there is there's a positive trajectory.
How can Kazakhstan really cement itself as an attractive crypto blockchain innovation hub in Central Asia, but also going forward globally?
I think one would be probably establishing a digital nomad visa, like some of these other countries, with clear guidelines around how to apply and how you would get involved. I think that's one way of like getting foreign entrepreneurs to get involved.
More grassroots community activity, and I see that sort of springing up, and there have been people that have been putting in a lot of time and effort into making this happen.
It's getting cold and late here in Kazakhstan, but we've learnt a lot today. And our findings from the conference and some of the desk research that we did before highlight the contrast between Kazakhstan and some of the other emerging crypto hubs around the world, like Turkey, where at least half the population reportedly owns some form of crypto. For example, in Istanbul during Crossroads 2024, even the taxi drivers were trading crypto. Here in Almaty, out of the 6 drivers that I asked, only 2 knew about crypto and just 1 said he owns some BTC. This definitely reflects the view that crypto adoption here is largely institutional, at least for now. And while the broader Kazakh population is just about starting to explore crypto, the friendly regulatory environment has definitely accelerated institutional adoption. With Kazakhstan's recent refusal to join BRICS, the bold moves are likely to continue. And as our respondents made clear today, even though there is still work to be done, perhaps one day soon, we'll even come to think of Kazakhstan as the Dubai or the Singapore of Central Asia.